Hey, Wenches with Wrenches. Today I want to take a hot minute or two to talk about cable routing as it pertains to shifting performance. When I refer to cable routing in this case, what I'm talking about is your shift cable and shift housing, so the inner wire, silver guy, and the casing or housing that goes with it. It's usually black, sometimes it's colored, going from your shifter to its corresponding derailleur. Ideally, our cable routing is going to be free from kinks or pinch points. It's not going to have sharp or harsh bends. And the system is going to be of ideal length as well for your bike. When we have the opposite of this, in most cases, essentially what we're getting is an increased amount of friction. Now, with your shift cables and housing, when we're talking about shifting performance, it really depends on having low friction inside this housing so that this cable can move freely back and forth. When we start getting increased friction inside this housing, this cable gets held up or sticks. And that's where we start seeing hesitation or like skipping with your shifting, and even an increased force field, like the amount of pressure you got to push at your shifter to get it to actually shift. So if you have stiff shifting, that this excessive friction could be one of the reasons why. Some things that contribute to friction are moisture, dirt, rust, corrosion, wear with the shift cables and housing that are too long, too short. There's a whole bunch of reasons, but the bottom line is trying to reduce the amount of friction that we have in our cables and housing. The bike behind me is actually a new bike, so it came out of the box with a cable and housing that was pre-cut to length. And I just want to show you how even a new bike can hit the floor with what I would consider a non-ideal routing in this case, non-ideal routing related to cable and housing length, causing some of the problems I mentioned before. Just going to show you. So you can see right here, this is the point where the housing and cable inserts at the rear derailleur, connects to the anchor bolt. And this bend right here is pretty significant for the amount of friction that can be caused on the inside of this bend at this line. So the harsher this bend, the more friction that the inner cable is going to experience. Now this actually looks okay, but the problem is when I go up to the handlebar, this is a system with full housing, meaning that from the handlebar to the derailleur, the housing, this black casing, is non-interrupted from shifter to derailleur. So when I go up to the handlebar, you can see here, this is the shifter where the housing comes in, shift cable. If I actually turn my handlebar as if I was taking a turn my bike, it really tightens the line right here. And we move back to where the derailleur is, you can see the angle of this bend has changed, increasing the amount of friction that we have at this point in the housing. Now, brand new shift cable and housing, maybe it shifts okay to start, but as soon as we get a little bit of dirt and moisture in here, we're increasing the friction, and then we're starting to get a deterioration in shift performance. So again, checking my routing, I would consider this to be a non-ideal length of housing for this bike because I want to be able to turn my handlebars and not actually affect the angle that I have at this bend in my derailleur. I need something that has a more gentle bend, so we're reducing the amount of friction on here. So I've got to put longer cable and housing in this bike so that we can make sure that shifting performance is ideal. Okay, so if you like that information and you want a little bit more, you need to sign up for my Wenches and Wenches Level 2. 2 dates coming up, one coming up soon in November and the other one's coming up in the new year. Here, Wenches.